Lucy Boynton takes on the title role of Ruth Ellis in the new series, A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis Story. Lucy, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This four-part series, a little known story, but has historical significance in Britain. Tell me a little bit about Ruth Ellis.
She was colorful force of a woman. She was 28 when she was killed by the government. She was hanged, and it changed our judicial system forever. It was a remarkable case that was so skewed by misogyny and classism, and so much of that was kept from the public knowledge. And this is the first time it's really being investigated. It's the first time it's on screen in the true kind of proceedings of what actually happened. So I think it'll be really illuminating for audiences who are familiar with the case, and especially those who are less so.
I mean, even speaking of that, I mean, because this was the 1950s, which feels like a long time ago, and also not a long time ago, kind of in the same sense.
Totally, and I think it's so interesting because she's such a contemporary woman herself. She was so ahead of her time in how ambitious she was, in the kind of independence that she craved and sought for herself, and the way she really carved out space for herself in a world that was telling her she didn't deserve it. So it's a really kind of, I don't know, catalyst and energizing story in that sense. And then I think there are so many parallels to our contemporary society now. I think we'd rather feel like so much of the sensibility of the 50s is safely in the past, but I do think it's a really great kind of opportunity to hold up a mirror and see those things that are still resonating similar.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about the research, your process. Obviously, there's a book on her, but, news articles, tell me a little bit about your process and to bringing this character to life.
There was so much source material on her, so I think I just went really broad. I cast the net very wide at the beginning, trying to read as much as I possibly could from kind of every resource, and then look for the overlaps. And I think that helps you to whittle down kind of what is fact rather than opinion. But she was very much at the mercy of the media and the way that they wanted to portray her, which was narrowed, again, by the kind of gender and class divide and kind of prejudice in the UK at the time. And so it was interesting to kind of, contrast how she was portrayed then through a contemporary lens. And then Carol Ann Lee's book, A Fine Day for a Hanging, which this is predominantly based on, was my Bible throughout. It is so well researched. It's such a great book in terms of providing context of London in the 50s and how that shapes a woman like Ruth Ellis. So it was an extensive research period for sure.
And obviously, there's those judicial parts of the series that we're going to see, but also, her relationship with David that we get to see that are not always pleasant moments. I mean, talk a little bit about working with the intimacy coordinator, how that process, what was like for you.
Oh, the intimacy coordinator on this job, Sophie Cooch, was my savior. She created such a safe environment for otherwise very dark, heavy material. And so, it was an incredibly intense filming process. But I think Kelly Jones, our writer, has struck such a brilliant and beautiful balance between highlighting all that was seemingly good in their relationship. So you really understand why they kept coming back to each other. And you really see the charming side of David Blakely, and that side is so much of what his friends were allowed in on. And then those moments of darkness where he really turns on her are really, really shocking, and were shocking to read about. So I know that it'll be very impactful on audiences.
How did working on this project maybe impact the future projects that you're going to take? I mean, was there something that you're leaving with this project that you're like, now this is something that I want to do? Because I'm also thinking of like Mary Austin in Bohemian Rhapsody, where you're playing these people that, whether depending on the age of the audience, that they actually have memories of these people, and you get to bring them onto the screen. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I think it's so fascinating playing real historical figures. I've played like Marie Antoinette as well, and at a time, and doing that research again of like the public perception of her versus possibly the reality, I find like a kind of behind the scenes history lesson getting to do projects like this. So, and also we've missed out on so many women's stories. The history books have really neglected them, and so has our industry. So I really look forward to finding more of those neglected stories and bringing those women to the screen. And I will forever want to work with Sophie Cooch, the intimacy coordinator. She is my hero.
Wonderful. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for your time today. A Crew Love premieres February 17th on BritBox.
Thank you.
Thank you.